Hello and welcome to another Lumbridge Night guide for free-to-play OSRS. In this video, we're going to be going through everything to do with the Moss Giantess boss, Bryophyta. I wouldn't liken your chances if you don't watch the rest of this video. Calling all potential squires and knights, the Lumbridge Knight needs you. Bryophyta is the Moss Giant boss. Why then would you want to fight her? Apart from the fact she is one of the few bosses available to fight in free-to-play, if you do it enough times, you can also land yourself on the coveted OSRS high scoreboard. There are a reasonably high number of kills required to get to that godly height of number 1, currently about 6,000, so, you know, good luck with that if that's what you want to do. There's also now a number of combat achievements associated with defeating Bryophyta. I think there's about 7, I'm going to flash them on the screen there. I'm not going to go through every single one in this video as it's beyond the scope of this guide. Of course, the main reason you want to fight Bryophyta is for the rewards. Previously, you needed a mossy key to access Bryophyta, and if you defeated her, you received your drop. Now, however, you only need a mossy key the first time you access the boss instance. From that point on, mossy keys open a reward chest in her lair, which you can open with a key once per Bryophyta kill. Bryophyta herself still has some standard drops, the best being mossy keys to access the reward chest. The reward chest has some decent rewards in general, but has two main desirables. The first is mainly for Iron Men, and that is the Rune Square Shield. I believe Bryophyta is the only enemy in free-to-play that drops the Rune Square Shield, which is the second best shield in free-to-play, the first being the Rune Kite Shield, which you can only get from the other free-to-play boss, Obor. It's a reasonably easy drop to get with a 1 in 20 chance. The main event though is Bryophyta's Essence, which was previously a members item. There's a 1 in 118 chance of getting this, it's worth between 3 to 4 million coins, and you can also use it to unlock the latest and best magic staff in free-to-play, Bryophyta's Staff. As you can see on the screen there, there's a variety of runes and other items that Bryophyta and the reward chest give. The tables are once again provided by the great site OSRS Wiki, which you can check out from a link in the description. Moving on. Let's examine Bryophyta's stats. She has a combat level of 128, max hit of 16, and 115 HP. You can see the rest of her stats on the screen there. She does not attack with ranged at all, but she does attack with melee if you are close enough, otherwise she will stand back and just blast spells at you. The catch with Bryophyta is that she can also summon growthlings, which we'll look at shortly. Based on the fact that Bryophyta is strong in magic, this previously made attacking her with magic in free-to-play not that practical. However, with the inclusion of her 50% weakness to fire magic, it's now a much more practical option. So unlike my previous guide, in this one I will be covering ranged, which is still probably my preferred and best method, melee, and magic too. How does one access Bryophyta, I hear you asking? She lives in Varrock sewers. You can see the map on the screen showing you the access point into the sewer there. And once I've gone inside, you can see the map for Varrock sewers displayed as well as the required route. Key point here is to remember that you will need a slash item as there is a spider web, just popping up there. You'll need a slash item in order to get through to access not only Bryophyta, but the moss giants within the sewers as well. In order to pass the gate that bars the entrance into her instance, you'll need a mossy key. This requires you to kill moss giants, of which there are 3 locations in free-to-play. The first and most efficient is in the wilderness, which gives you a 1 in 60 chance, but obviously comes with its own hazards. Next is Crandor, not very practical or especially useful in my view. This has a 1 in 150 chance of a mossy key. And the final place, and the place I would recommend, is the Varrock sewers, conveniently right outside Bryophyta's lair. This also has a 1 in 150 chance, so by far the fastest method is to use the wilderness, but it's also the most dangerous. I recommend just farming in Varrock sewers. Anyone who's interested can check out my ranged and magic guides, a link to which will be popping up on the screen about now, as I utilise moss giants for training in both. Then simply head to the locked gate, unlock it using a key, and enter the instance. Oh, but before we do that, we're going to have to decide which way we want to fight Bryophyta, ranged, melee, or magic. Don't worry, I'm going to give you all 3, starting with the stats, items, and equipment required for the range method, which is by far my preferred and recommended method. So stats wise, you're going to need 37 prayer. This is for protect from magic, which is crucial with Bryophyta as she attacks heavily with magic. You're going to need 40 defense. This is to allow you to wear green d'hide armor, and if you're going to use ranged, as we are, we're going to need around 50 ranged. In terms of equipment, on the screen you can now see the recommended minimum set of equipment. I've also provided a rough GE price guide for each. In terms of arrows, I recommend adamant if possible. Alternatively, you can use mithril or at a push steel, but adamant and mithril are recommended to max out your max hit. In terms of items, you can see my recommended inventory with individual breakdowns and GE price guides as well. Key thing to remember here is a slash item, as previously mentioned. In this case, you can see I've brought a knife in order to get through the spider's web in Varrock sewers. You also need an axe to deal with the growthlings. Don't worry if you forget this, because you can pick one up inside the instance. Okay, so if you have the stats, equipment and items that I've just mentioned, you're pretty much ready to go. Before you go through the gate of no return and use your mossy key, do the checklist. So, check you've got full health, check you've got full prayer, check you've flicked your run on, etc, etc, you get the point. If all that comes back green, then let's head through the door. Bear in mind, as soon as you get into the instance, you're going to be attacked by magic from Bryophyta. You want to turn on your protect from magic as soon as possible, possibly even before going through the door. And now all you have to do is range Bryophyta and pray that she doesn't summon the growthlings. The less she summons the growthlings, the faster you'll kill her. When the growthlings spawn in, you need to switch up and attack the growthlings immediately. This is because while the growthlings are present in the instance, Bryophyta cannot be damaged. There will always be 3 and they'll always come to you, so don't go chasing after them if you don't have to. Previously you had to get these guys down to 1 HP and then use an axe on them. However, if you simply equip the axe and left click on each in turn, you should now instantly kill them. I'd like to say she only spawns them a set number of times, but it's completely random. She could do it technically 0, and she could do it 5 times in a row, which can make them slightly annoying, especially given Bryophyta will be throwing spells at you the whole time. But that pretty much sums up how to kill Bryophyta using this method. You should be able to kill her relatively quickly, and you've just sort of safe spotted her because her magic very rarely lands. I recommend staying back because if you go too close she will use melee, which will probably land hits, and you don't want to do that. So yeah, just circle through attacking her and dealing with the growthlings as they come. There's not really a whole lot more to it. If at any point you run out of food or are low on health, don't be afraid to use your telly runes to get out of there and live to fight another day. Anyone who has low prayer, or if your prayer gets low because you've been unlucky and she spawned the growthlings multiple times, you can utilise prayer flicking. I've added a tip at the end of the video to cover this, so check that out as it will help elongate your prayer almost indefinitely, allowing you to last the full instance with your protect from magic up. Once you slay Bryophyta, remember to pick up the drop from her, and then if you have a mossy key, use it on the reward chest to receive your reward. You can now access the instance without the need for a key, and since Bryophyta drops keys herself, you can farm her or the moss giants to get more keys for the reward chest. Remember, you can only use 1 key per kill.
Please like the video and support my content. Thank you, noble knight.
Now that we've gotten through the range technique, let's look at the melee technique. This is a tad more dangerous than ranged, and in my experience, definitely slower. As before, we're going to look at stats first. You're going to need your 37 prayer again, because she's going to attack with a lot of magic, and as you're going to be decked out for melee, you're going to be more susceptible to it. So it's more crucial that you have your 37 prayer. And then I just recommend base 50 stats. So base 50 melee, meaning 50 attack, 50 defense, and 50 strength. That's it. That should be enough stats wise to deal with her. Moving on to equipment, you should see the recommended equipment coming up on the screen along with the breakdowns and the rough GE guide prices. I didn't actually verbalise it, but Iron Men, if you are struggling to get the Amulet of Power or the Amulet of Strength, then use the Amulet of Accuracy. Equally, just bring your best melee defense shield. It's worth having a quick discussion on weapons. Obviously, if you are a standard account, you want to be using the Rune Scimitar, which is basically the best melee weapon in free-to-play. Iron Men, there's a bit more variety. I recommend using the Baronite Mace, as that's probably the best melee weapon you're going to be able to attain. If you haven't got that, then bring a Rune Sword. Not a Rune Longsword. The Rune Sword, while being lower in stats, has a higher attack rate, so you'll do more DPS with the Rune Sword, as opposed to the Rune Longsword. And that pretty much covers the equipment. In terms of items, it's almost exactly the same as the last step. As you can see, once again, I've put the breakdown and the rough costs on the screen there. However, if you're using the Baronite Mace and you're an Iron Man, you will probably need to bring a slash item, so bring the knife. Otherwise, if you're using the Scimitar or Rune Sword, you've already got a slash item, so no additional knife required. Okay, so moving on to the tactics. Before we enter Bryophyta's lair, you want to do the checks. Health, prayer, toggle run, attack style, etc, etc. Same as before. You can see the checklist on the screen. Remember to use a slashing style with the scimitar, a stabbing style with the sword, and the Baronite mace can only do crush, so you don't really have to worry too much on that one. Once again, when you get through here, you'll almost instantly get attacked by magic. So turn on the Protect from Magic prayer, drink your strength potion, and charge Bryophyta in attack. As always, we're hoping that she doesn't spawn the growthlings, or she spawns them sparingly. But like I said previously, it's completely random, so just keep hitting her until the growthlings spawn. Once the growthlings spawn, I suggest you take a few steps back away from Bryophyta. Firstly, because the growthlings tend to get tangled around her and she blocks them, so they'll just stand there, and obviously you need to kill them as quickly as possible in order to start dealing damage back to Bryophyta. And secondly, it means she focuses on magic attacks on you, which shouldn't do much damage while your prayer's up, so you can just deal with the growthlings. Remember, we no longer need to get their health down to 1 HP or lower, just equip the axe and left click on each of them in turn. Then re-equip your main weapon and charge back to Bryophyta and start giving her the good news. If you're unlucky, she might respawn the growthlings 3 or 4 times. If you're lucky, she might only do it once or twice. Keep an eye on your health and eat as required. Persevere and eventually you will kill her off. As I said previously, if you do ever feel the battle is going south, don't be afraid to use your runes and telly out. As you can see in the video, if you want a prayer flick, that might be a sensible option. This method may take a little bit longer than using ranged, but it's equally as doable. You can see that I had plenty of food left by the end. She doesn't deal a ridiculous amount of damage simultaneously, and you should be more than capable of being able to deal with her. Congratulations! Once you have slain her, gather your drops, use a key on the chest if you have one, and exit the instance or teleport out if you brought runes like I did. Now onto the third and final method, magic. This method is probably the most susceptible to taking damage, however with Protect from Magic you should still be fine. Like the other two methods, let's look at stats. Here you are definitely going to need your 37 prayer again, and I recommend a magic level of around 59 so you can use Fire Blast, along with a recommended 50 defense, just to give you a little bit of protection from the growthlings and should you get within melee range of Bryophyta. Moving on to equipment. Here we simply want the best in slot magic gear, which you can see on the screen there, along with an air or fire staff, since we are only going to be attacking with fire spells. In terms of items, you'll need runes for Fire Blast or Fire Bolt, as well as the usual food, axe, slash item and telly runes, etc, as shown on the screen there. Tactics. As always, before we enter Bryophyta's lair, do the checks. Health, prayer, toggle run, auto cast, etc, etc, same as before. You can see the checklist on the screen. Just remember to set your auto cast up with your best fire spell and don't bother with defensive casting. Once again, when you get through here, you'll almost instantly get attacked with magic, so turn on the Protect from Magic prayer and left click to start firing your own magic salvos. As always, you're hoping she doesn't spawn the growthlings. Just keep hitting her until she does. Once the growthlings appear, equip your axe, wait for them to get close to you and give each of them the good news. As soon as they're dealt with, re-equip your staff and get back to hitting Bryophyta with Fire Blast. Keep an eye on your health and don't be afraid to bail out if things start to go poorly. Again, prayer flicking may be a sensible option here to extend your prayer, particularly if you are planning to do multiple runs at a time. You can see that I had plenty of food left by the end of this one. With your prayer up, she doesn't deal a huge amount of damage, and while this is a more all-round account with a HP level of 50, more pure magic accounts with decent prayer and defense should still be okay. Anyway, keep going until you defeat her or run out of food, and after hopefully defeating her, gather her drops, use a key if you have one, and then again exit the instance or teleport out. Top tip, if you have multiple keys, if you wait long enough, Bryophyta will respawn and you can fight her again, which will allow you to use your second key once you have defeated her. Now, as with all my videos, I like to bring a couple of bonus tips right at the end, and in this video I have 4 top tips to help make fighting Bryophyta a little bit easier. The first tip is to always recharge your prayer at the monastery to the west of Edgeville. The reason you want to do this is because it gives you +2 extra prayer points. You do need 31 prayer in order to access the altar at the monastery, but obviously if you've listened to my advice, this shouldn't be a problem. The second tip I'm going to bring you is to go into your settings and under the Control tab, and where it says NPC attack options, change the option to left click where available. Normally for high level NPCs, such as Bryophyta, being a level 128, you would have to right click and then select attack. Changing this option, as I've suggested, allows you to attack with one left click instead of the normal right click left click. This is crucial when you want to eat, target the growthlings, flick your prayer, and or anything in between, allowing you to resume the attack on her with one simple click. The third tip is in a similar vein to the previous one, however this is to do with setting up your quick prayers. To set up your quick prayers, all you need to do is right click on the quick prayer icon next to your minimap, so right click, set up quick prayers, and in this instance we want to be using protect from magic. Once this is done, we want to come off that menu, and now we can toggle our prayer on and off by simply clicking the icon on the screen, as you can see my character doing. This is critical if you want to perform prayer flicking, which is my fourth and final tip. I use an online metronome. If you just search for metronome on Google, you can get that and set up 100 beats per minute. This is roughly aligned to the game's clock. Since Bryophyta has an attack speed of 6, this means she generally attacks on the 6th tick. I can align that now, and I'll tune the metronome in so you can hear it. I click the prayer on the 4th or 5th tick, and turn it off again on the 6th, or just after the 6th. This basically preserves my prayer and allows me to have all the benefits while not actually using it. Just keep on top of your health and learn to multitask. You can use the metronome to practice. That's all I can recommend to help with prayer flicking. The best thing to do is just practice, 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 and eventually you'll get your head around it. And that pretty much sums up this video. I hope that this has been of some use to you. Thank you for watching, and if you have any tips or tricks to get the better of Bryophyta, please leave a comment and let me know. I'm eager to hear them. And also for me to say is I've been the Lumbridge Knight, peace out, and thanks for watching.